That's us live.
Fantastic. Okay, welcome everybody to this absolutely fabulous live with the incredible Dr. Carol Hughes from Biome for Pets. I know many of our members have been looking into the microbiome testing for their dogs at the moment, so hopefully this live will be very useful for you. Dr. Carol, would you like to give us a bit of an introduction?
Yeah. I'm Carol Hughes. We've been researching the microbiome since 2014. We've analysed the guts of thousands and thousands of dogs. I originally started in microbiology, but in horses, and we transitioned to dogs. I think because it's probably a bigger market and it's attracted more research. And our first research project was with butchers, healthcare, and loads of vets in the Midlands. And we kind of discovered, to our horror, I guess, that the dog's microbiome was in a worse state than anyone else's microbiome we looked at. We looked at exotics and cows and other ruminants, anything that you can analyse we looked at. But the dog is in a real state. And I suppose that fired me on to want to do more and research more, which we have done since 2014. And we launched in 2018. And I think we were so afraid what we could tell people about what was going on in the microbiome. It almost put us off for a bit, and so we would go through the vets instead. And then gradually we got more confidence, and people obviously got more interested in what was going on in the gut of the dog. And we learned much more about what the pathogens meant to the dog, because obviously he eats meat and bones and scavengers. So he's got a much more volatile microbiome than any other animal. And we just started there, really. And I'm kind of dedicated to the health of the canine microbiome. I've got my own dogs. I've got lots of dogs, lots of horses, simply because it's in a bad state, really, and we need to fix it.
Amazing. That is, I just feel that we're kindred spirits with the lots of animals. I think we're all the same. We'd just have so many animals if we could. Trying to help them all.
Yeah, and I've also had dogs with that are rescues and that have come with problems, and it's coming from the gut. And before we launched this side of the business and this sort of testing service, you couldn't get to the bottom of it. And you tried the antibiotics, you tried probiotics, you tried changing the diet, all sorts of things, but it didn't really seem to get to the bottom until you actually could analyse what was going in the gut. And it's really quite mind-blowing because you could be so accurate now.
It's really, really insightful. And I know from first hand, when I received that report, I literally went, what does it all mean? And I think we'll come to that shortly a little bit more, but we understand how it can feel for everybody. You're there to help, and you do incredible work. My mindset completely turned on its head. It really did with this, and things are going good now, so we do get there eventually.
Oh, they are going good. Yeah, you're right. It's going really good. But there's so much more I want to do. We've got the fecal matter transplant bank sort of started. There's so much we want to do with that. And we want to do it well and accurate so that we can help more dogs. I think there's few people doing the oral fecal matter transplant stuff, which we could talk about if you wanted to. But we want to actually match the donor to the recipient in a much more accurate way.
Oh, that would be so positive, wouldn't it, as well?
Yeah.
Allow that greater impact to be made if you've got that direct link. So could you explain to us what the microbiome tests actually are? I know a lot of people panic when you mention any sort of test. They worry. Or maybe tell us sort of how simple they are.
Well, I think they're very logical. I love the logic of it, and I love the fact that it looks at the whole microbiome family. So you're not just picking a level out or just identifying one type of bacteria. it's actually telling you what's in the whole microbiome to what percentage. So that gives you an idea of how important that bacteria is or not, as the case may be, because a lot of tests from the vet, they'll do PCR, so they may find something like perfringens, some awful pathogen, and they may say, oh, well, the problem is perfringens, and that's why your dog has got diarrhea or whatever. But it may be only present in the microbiome at 0.05%, and that's normal. That is a normal amount to have in the gut, and that the perfringens is actually a stimulant for the immune system. So you don't want to get rid of it altogether. And I think we have had a complete war on microbes. And I think what this report does, and this way of analysing, is help you look into that microbial community and not kind of go, oh my goodness, we have to get rid of all the bad bacteria, but to understand it and how it relates directly to the dog's health, and how you can change it, manipulate it to produce more benefits. And I think that's it in a nutshell, because the microbiome is the thing that makes your dog healthy or sick, without a doubt. I mean, it is the driver, the master regulator of health. And we're just beginning to realise that more.
It is, and obviously that's mental as well as physical health as well. It can be such a big driver of how your dog is behaving, how your dog is feeling, how ill or how healthy your dog is. Absolutely everything is influenced by that one small part of the body, really, in theory. But it's
a massive community, isn't it? I mean, I always think of it like a city. What's a big city? I suppose Tokyo. I imagine one of those cities where there's skyscrapers and hundreds of people running everywhere, thousands, millions. But it works, doesn't it? And you look at the city and it has to work for everyone on some kind of level. And the gut is like that. The gut bacteria get something out of being part of that community, and they're there to keep the host alive. But it has to run fluently. If you've got too many bad bacteria and not a strong enough police force, let's say, then the bad bacteria take over. But then, and then you get a sick dog. But what you have to do is improve the police force, not just get rid of the bad bacteria, because something will take its place. So it's fascinating like that, and you can tell all that from the results.
The results, once you take that time to sit down and read through them, and a lot of our members have been putting the results into like the AI robots that are available.
So that's clever.
So they'll book the call in, but before they have the call, to try and get their heads around it a little bit more, they've put the results in to try and understand a bit, and they found it quite useful, to be honest.
You must show me how to do that. That sounds fabulous.
I was amazed. I want to do it myself, to be honest. And I mean, the test itself as well, it's just like ordering a worm count kit in a way. You've got the little scoop and the little jar, and you're just collecting a really small pea size, isn't it, sample?
Yeah, it is.
So it's really, really easy to do. I mean, the way I look at it is my other half did it without my help, so it must be easy. I always think if he can do it, anyone
can. No, it is easy.
And for such a big insight, I mean, I want to do it for my other dog, to be honest. In the next couple of weeks, I'll be ordering that. To try and get a bit of an understanding with him. He's got no health issues as such that are alarming anyway, but I just want to understand him because he didn't have the best upbringing. So I know that can play a part as well on the microbiome. So it'll be interesting to see what that shows up.
I think behaviour is emerging as an important aspect, isn't it, for
definitely
microbiome, linking the biome to health.
Definitely. So I know there are a couple of different companies out there. But I believe that you guys are basically the gold standard. You have the lab, you have the correct facilities, the correct processes in place. Would you be able to tell us a little bit about what makes you as good as you are, basically? Really amazing.
I think for one, we work with the leaders in microbiome research at Aberystwyth University. And at the time, they were investigating ruminants because they're very big on cattle in Wales and sheep and farm animals. But what we learned from being with them is that how to manipulate the microbiome. So it was always their target to change what was going on to produce more milk or more meat. So right from the beginning, that was their primary goal. And we learned a lot how to do that with food and with antimicrobial compounds. The other part of our research was at plant antimicrobials, because you can't give a microbiome antibiotics because it's just counterproductive. You have to choose plants that make antimicrobials that will work against the bacteria you want to get rid of. So we learned that from an early age, early on in the business. And we've never deviated from that ambition to look at, and to also look at the dog, not be distant from the dog, but actually understand what the symptoms are live and what's going on in the gut live, and to kind of match them together with some kind of antimicrobial to manipulate the biome. So I think that we're the only people that set out to do that from the beginning and have a long history of doing that. We also use the same lab. We've got the same collection, the way we collect the fecal sample. We have the same lab technician. She's come on from being a junior now to a doctor herself. So we have this really, and we've got the same microbiologist who started as a student at Bangor University. So we've kind of collected this really good, dedicated team who are quite profound in the way they do stuff. They do it so well. They won't, the quality is absolutely first. So we have lots of quality controls along the way. I have been tempted, because they're not the quickest, to go to other labs, and we've tried that in the past, but they may be all singing, all dancing, really techie, wonderful, wow, wow, but you just can't use the results. They don't match with what we've got. And we always match our results to what's being researched. We follow what everyone else is doing, because we know it's really important to sing off the same hymn sheet. And I think we're the only company that do that as well. It's just important to us to make the dog well, and you have to do all those things to make it happen.
I think that's absolutely brilliant. It's clear to me that that passion is there throughout your whole team, end to end.
Yeah,
definitely. Do things right. It's really, really good.
Yeah, and you just can get things done if you've got everyone the same. You can get more done. And as I say, we want to push the boat out and do the fecal matter transplants, which is going to be really close, dear to our heart. But you have to have the database there so that you can draw the right conclusions. And without that, well, we've also got the largest database. Without a database, you can't really be accurate.
Fantastic. So that's really good. If anybody was looking into it and wondering why we sort of recommend, because we literally only recommend you guys. So now that's going to help to explain a little bit why we do that. So could you sort of walk us through the process of when you get the test in? So once somebody shipped it over to you, what happens to the test?
Well, we book it in, obviously, and then we send it to the IBERS, the Institute of Biological, Environmental and Rural Science, simply because they're just amazing at what they do. They're very, very accurate, very, very good, and they're always researching themselves. And plus, if anything goes wrong, they have this fantastic way of being able to put it right. So if we get a batch back, so they analyse it, they're at the lab and they're analysed. If there is a problem with it, they'll rerun it. So automatically it'll get rerun. You don't get that in any other lab. So if you've sent your test in and you've gone to all that work and paid the money, if there is a problem, it's picked up at quality control level and it's just rerun. And also they can do that for months after. So we never really get a problem. Yeah, no, that's really amazing. Good. Yeah, it's really amazing. And then once Charlie, our lab tech, has completed what she needs to do, it's put into the aluminum iSeq. So we have 96 samples that go in together, and they're all kind of processed together. They're logged against the name of the owner, not the dog, and then it's just streamed real time to us over our base space account that's attached to Illumina. But they're picking out the signature, the gene signature of each individual bacteria, and we've got a 92% accuracy at species level, which is incredible. When I first started, it was only 55%. So
wow, so it's improved so much.
Yeah, so we couldn't look at species. We used to look at genus, but now we can look at species, and it'll always come back. You can be sure that what you're getting is an accurate result, which is great. And it's a bit sad, really, because I know I was talking to someone and they said, "Oh, microbiome tests have such they're notoriously inaccurate." And I kind of think, well, probably they could be if you weren't doing them right, but we've never found that. We've never. Because we've approached it from a certain way, we just find them very accurate. But if you send them to anyone who hasn't got our background, I can imagine, they would be inaccurate. We've had a lot of data come in from other places, and I just can't make sense of it. There's no point.
God. I know out of the members that have had the results back, I have not seen anybody say this is completely wrong. This doesn't feel right for me. Everybody is just so thankful that this exists, because you sort of get to a point with, especially say if it's an itchy dog, you can only go so far with diet before you think, well, it's not right still, something's still not right. And the only way of knowing what's not right is to know what's going on in the gut. So the fact that this is available to people, I personally think it's incredible. Really.
No, I agree. I think that's what drives us on. Yes.
So kind of linking in nicely there, what kind of insights can pet owners gain from the microbiome test results?
Loads. Where do you start? Well, obviously we do the basics. So we look at temperament, we look at anxiety, aggression. There are 3 different types of anxiety that could stem from the microbiome. So there's lack of serotonin, there's actually bacteria that cause anxiety, and bacteria that if they're low, the dog will be anxious. So we look at those 3 profiles and then we suggest what to do about it. We look at the diversity, that's really important. So whether the dog has a good microbiome diversity. We do the Firmicute to Bacteroidetes ratio. This is new, so it might not be on your report, but it does, it gives you an idea of whether your dog has inflammation in the gut, so a high level of inflammatory bacteria, or whether it's an infection. So it's like a scale of one or the other. And that's based on a veterinary kind of developed tool, which is great. So we thought we'd throw that one in. We do the number of species, and then we look at biofilm bacteria. That's an important one. But out of all that, which I think is all really interesting, and we could have pages and pages. I do a summary on the vet summary page that then helps you to focus on what the primary problem is. Because what we've found with the microbiome, if you can solve, it's like a master key, if you can solve that main dysbiosis, that main problem, the microbiome just goes, oh, thank goodness for that, and then starts to work as it should do. So we do focus on that, and out of it, if you can just say, just stick to that page 5, do whatever it says on page 5, then let us know how you're getting on later. We can change it, we can talk about it, we can do other things, but do that first and see how you get on.
That is literally the first thing I did, because I'd heard about going to the vet summary page. So the first thing I did was look at that, and then I was like, oh, I'll just go and have a read. And that's when I got overwhelmed at that point. So would sort of say to members now, when your results come through, just focus on that one page until you've spoken to Carol herself, and then she'll pop you right on the track and you'll be fine. it's so good because it's literally a couple of lines explaining
Yeah,
what you need to do, and it's so easy to take in from that page. I really like
yeah.
it.
Yeah, and we try and keep it as simple, although it's a massively complex topic because we've done the manipulation of the ruminants to start with, and we've always done that with dogs, with our work with butchers. I think it was obesity we were trying to kind of resolve in dogs because we've always done it. We know what works. So, and we try to do it from food. Obviously, we have our supplements that we have that are formulated to do that job. But the idea is to get the microbiome back to where it should be, so it's working on its own.
Brilliant. Absolutely love that.
Yeah,
Have you seen anything surprising in the test results or
yeah,
any common issues that you see?
yeah. We did have one little dog, and he had 70% was a bacteria that belonged to rats. And I think he was a rescue, a street dog. Um,
Okay.
and he had this incredible, I've never seen the bacteria before, incredible bacteria that was like killing off other bacteria, but it was actually doing half a good job for the dog because it's trying, obviously had to keep the dog alive in terrible circumstances when there wasn't much to eat wherever it was on the street. But then by feeding it food from the UK, like sort of rich food, it just overgrew and overgrew until
Wow.
it took over the microbiome. So
Wow.
that's possibly the most interesting one. But I can guarantee there'll be one out of every sort of 30 tests that I do that I won't have come across it. And then we have to go and start researching, where it's coming from, what it's doing, things like that, really.
I like that though, because it keeps you constantly evolving what you have as a knowledge base as well.
Yeah,
So it's really, I'm obsessed with the microbiome at the moment.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
know it's a bit of a rabbit hole. Once you start, you're there forever. But
Yeah.
it's so intriguing.
Well, I
Um,
think what's interesting is when people come and they talk about the meat and the diet, and this, I don't really understand it. It's 80% there's some novel proteins. I'm looking at the microbiome results and thinking, well, the dog couldn't digest that because it doesn't have those bacteria in it. So I can understand why you've got a problem, but we have to try and get some bacteria back so that your diet will work.
yeah, that's it. It's the diet is sort of it can help with so many things, and then there comes a point in the road where you hit a speed bump. And
Yeah,
that speed bump says you need to know what's going on in the gut, what needs fixing before you can continue on the journey. And
yeah,
to be honest, I think we probably mention the microbiome, I'd say, in about 30 to 40% of cases at the moment that we're getting through on the group. So it is quite a big thing. We are seeing a lot of itchy dogs, a lot of
yeah,
reoccurrent stomach conditions. Um, and again, if people have got like the reoccurrent ear infections, again, something like that, it could just be a microbiome imbalance.
yeah.
So we are recommending it left, right, and centre at the moment, it
Yeah,
seems.
yeah, and there's so much more we can do with that. I think it's such a rabbit hole. Well, it's a rabbit hole. It's so spelt out in science what the problem is, but not it doesn't make it to mainstream. So I see my job is taking it out of the research papers and bringing it to mainstream so that we can make sense of it and use it properly and use it to the benefit of the dog.
Absolutely. And I know we've all been watching your posts as well, quite closely. So we've been learning little bits where we can from you. So and sharing those into the group. I know Taomi, one of our admins, is always saying, "Can I share this? Can I share this?" And I'm like, "Hang on, I'm
Oh,
reading it." She gets really excited.
yeah,
She loves it.
yeah,
So I think we're trying to help people to learn from you as well, and they may
yeah,
not see the post on your page. So by sharing it into the group, hopefully a wider audience will start to see it and learn from you.
yeah, yeah.
So
Thank you.
what sort of scenarios do you recommend people do a microbiome test for then, other than the usual
Um,
itchy dog?
Anxiety is the big one at the moment. We've seen since COVID, but I think it started then. But there's a reason probably why the microbiome got more involved at that time, because the bacteria that were involved in amplifying, let's say, COVID, got to live in the microbiome of the dog. Before COVID, we never saw it, or we didn't see it at such levels. But then during COVID, there was a lot of people researching and actually saying, look, the people that are the sickest have this bacteria in the gut and in the lung at high levels. And for some reason, the virus is being amplified by that bacteria, because quite often people will get a virus and then they'll get a secondary bacterial infection. That's never gone away, and the bacteria has changed, because they do. They change through horizontal gene transfer, but it doesn't cause the same problem in the dog. It does cause a problem through the gut-brain axis, and it makes the dog more reactive or more anxious. So it's doing something different, but it's there in such levels. I think if you're feeding kibble and not meat, we have dogs with 78% of this bacteria. So there's no way a dog could be healthy with that level of bacteria that it's got. So we see that, and almost because the microbiome is an ecosystem, so it's changing anyway, and it changes depending on the pressures put on it. And during COVID, there were pressures put on the microbiome of the dog, same as the human, and this is what's evolved. And then it takes a few years where the other microbes will either kick it out or it'll be taken over. So it's now taking over. I mean, it will evolve further on, but because we wiped out all the bacteria that controlled it, that's what you're stuck with a bacteria that is so resistant and has set up kind of home, and you've got rid of also the bifidobacteria. They've gone because of the use of antibiotics in the environment. So, and the use of hand sanitizers. You've just got a massive change and a massive imbalance going on.
Wow. And I know what Arnie's a lockdown dog, as I call him. So I know there's quite a few members actually around the same sort of age that we've been recommending the test for, where they've all been around about the sort of 3 years old, 4 years old marker. And I'm wondering now, I'd love to see some more test results come through.
Well, I think I'm going to do a lot at the Natural Dog Expo. But before COVID, because we've been doing it for so long, there was a different scenario. You would get high levels of Campylobacter, which was a vet's delight, because they understand Campylobacter and E. coli and all those ones they read about. So, you know, all the baddies, they kind of get that, but they got wiped out. We hardly ever see. We hardly ever see. Probably 1 in 50 will be that kind of infection. Which says a lot, doesn't it, really?
It does.
But then you get in the group that those bad bacteria used to live, which I loved. I love the kind of bad bacteria as well, because they prime the immune system. You've got a gang of bacteria that are related to autism in humans. So they've moved in alongside the bacteria linked to anxiety, and all the kind of Campylobacters and E. coli's have moved out. So
it's so strange to think that one instance in the world can have this effect, and that this long-lasting effect as well, because obviously everybody's sort of, it's over, it's done, we'll move on with my life. But there's still that impact going on, and it's probably across all species as well, I'd assume, that there'll be that impact. So it's really interesting.
It's not so much the cat, because the cat is closer to soil than it is to its human. I don't know why, because I don't know very much about cats, but cats relate to soil. So as long as they're in a healthy outside environment, they can get hold of sand and soil and stuff they can scratch and dig up. they're better than the dog. The dog somehow has taken on the human microbiome more, and so
Wow.
you've got all those pressures that come from the human, you know, linked to the things like autism that don't really suit the dog, don't cause, I don't know, we're looking at whether the ADHD thing is relevant. I don't know if we'll find the answer, but it certainly causes gut discomfort in the dog. So again, it's doing perhaps a different job, but it's a bacteria that shouldn't be there and it needs to go.
So interesting that, and so it makes you realize just how much your health can influence the dog's health as well.
Yeah.
It's definitely one that I think a few of us will be keeping a close eye on your page for any more information on that one, to be honest.
Yeah.
Do you have any success stories of where a microbiome test has made such a big difference in a dog's life?
Yeah,
Because
do you know
people
that
love hearing things.
yeah, well, my favourites are always dogs with cancer, and I'm kind of careful how we manage it, because obviously it's very traumatic, all that, and I'm never actually sure of what we can do to help, because not much is written about cancer in dogs, in the microbiome. But with all the ones that come in, we've been profiling them all the way through, and what the dog does is makes its own antibiotics. So the gut bacteria go, well, we've got to help this dog for some reason, antibiotics, and it makes its own steroids. So as long as you can help support the steroid and antibiotic making bacteria, because it's a different thing to an antibiotic that a vet would give, it has lots of different components. So it's going to do a lot of different jobs. And I'm sure one of them is to keep the dog alive. And it's a specific profile that if you can support that, the dog will survive. And we've had them, there was one dog we didn't know what it was. I think it came out of the blue, and it's very quick and very surprising. But with the ones that we have, we do support them through it. And as yet, they've all survived, which is fantastic. And I'm actually going to present that at a vet conference this year for the first time.
Oh, fantastic.
That's amazing.
Yeah, because it's trying to get the vets to hands off the gut microbiome, isn't it? Not to interfere and trust it to do something it's designed to do.
It's very quick, isn't it, to sort of throw a medication or a certain probiotic that might not be the right probiotic for that dog.
Yes, so, I think what you've said is absolutely right. Yeah, so it's already doing its own thing, so you don't want to disturb the balance by putting in something that you shouldn't be there. You need to feed the bacteria that are making the antibiotics, and you need to identify them first to know what they are before you can do that.
That is so interesting. That's amazing that dogs can develop that in that way and help themselves. I love that.
I think people do, because it's in the gut microbiome's interest to keep you alive, isn't it?
True.
Really, it's
true.
Or to keep the dog alive, because otherwise, it's what happens. You know, it kind of loses, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's a good point, really. So it's sort of letting nature do its thing and
and
making
also
it as
for
positive
dogs,
an experience.
Yeah, and for dogs like that, if you walk them in ancient woodland, the trees, because we work with a specialist who, a scientist, a proper scientist, which was always highly amusing to me, because you think science is a bit sort of strict and a bit boring, but he was linked to Kew Gardens and he lectured around the world, and he worked with ancient trees, and they sense so things like old oak, they sense if someone walks through and they're ill, they sense it and release chemicals.
Wow.
Of volatile organic compounds that are breathed in by you or the dog or anyone else. So go for a walk in the woods. I can thoroughly, and especially if the leaves are falling, that seems to be an even stronger time.
Oh, that is really interesting. And now I know why you mentioned woodland walks on your report as well. That makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah. But what scientists do is manipulate those chemicals and try and put them in a bottle. And I think, well, why put them in a bottle? Why make money out of it? Why not just go and do it?
Nature's there on the doorstep, use it. Definitely, I agree with that one. So I think we've covered really what the main benefits of using the tests are,
Yeah,
because obviously it's given that greater insight. Otherwise, it's a bit of guesswork, and people can potentially be putting their good money. At the end of the day, it's a cost of living crisis, etc. Everybody's
yeah,
struggling. And if they're putting their good money after supplement, or changing the diet 17 times in a year, which I've seen so many times over, I think, Nick,
yeah.
you have as well, haven't you? Um, and you just think, instead of trying to fix it quickly, put your money into something that can actually give you the real insight
Yeah,
and help you
agreed.
to get that proper fix. And yeah, it might take a while. I know there's quite a few different types of bacteria that you've said earlier that are quite aggressive almost. They're quite difficult to
Resistant.
change.
Yeah,
That's the word.
yeah,
Um, so, it might not be fixed today, but in a year or 2 years' time, you could be looking at a completely different dog to the one you've got today. And over time,
yeah,
they'll just get better and better.
yeah,
Um,
for sure.
so I know you mentioned about when the pet parent gets the report to look at the vet summary page,
Yeah,
which I adore those vet summary pages.
yeah, me too. I love
Um,
writing them.
are they're just so easy to understand, and
But the
they're
trouble is, I must apologise. I'm so deeply involved with the bacteria. Quite often, the words I've missed a space out, or I've put the wrong word in it, the English word. But the bacteria, they're just, if you're looking at the bacteria, it's quite hard to do anything other than that.
well, this is it. And the thing is, we are all only human at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And we all make typing mistakes all the time.
Oh,
So you're
good.
in good
That's good.
company here, don't worry. I have said some very strange things to people before now, and then I've looked back and gone, that's not what I meant to type at all.
No, 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 that's it.
So other than receiving that summary report, is it at that point that members can go onto your website and book in their consultation with you as
Yeah,
well?
yeah.
And that's all included, isn't it, in the price?
Yes, they're better off probably emailing me at the moment, because we're absolutely swamped. I have got a training, my microbiologist that was a student, we're training her up to consultation. She's now a senior microbiologist, so she's up
Brilliant.
for it, but we've just hit the point where, so if there isn't a free appointment, just email me. It's easier probably, because I can fit you in. I just leave certain days for that consultation, but just email me. It'll be fine. We'll fit you in.
Brilliant. That is fantastic news. So you have slightly touched on this earlier on, but what advancements do you foresee in the field of microbiome testing and the results?
Do you know, it's going to go one of two ways. I think it may hit a rough patch because people are getting on the bandwagon. It's a bit like the Wild West out there with my genomic testing. It's very trendy, and it's very easy now to get it done, but it isn't easy to get it done right. So it could be that it comes into a little bit of questioning, which will be good for it. And I think once that's resolved, I think it will go on to be a diagnostic tool for many of the different gastric conditions that aren't being diagnosed very well at the moment because of the lack of technology, trustworthy technology and testing. I think it will be used by behaviourists, nutritionists, and people that are in the world of canines for a professional healthcare reason. I think it will become really a strong thing for them to use to actually resolve the issues.
Absolutely.
And also fecal mass transplant. We hope
I
that.
was going to mention,
Yeah.
You want to give everybody a bit of an overview of the fecal
Yeah.
matter transplants?
Yeah. So it's a dried, freeze-dried oral. Basically, you take some dog poo and freeze dry it. And other companies that are doing it have a sort of USP, a unique selling point, where it'll either be from dogs that have never had antibiotics, or it'll be from dogs that are donors of a particular kind. Either they haven't got any disease, or they all eat the same food. I don't think that will fit or give a good result long term. So it's our ambition to match a recipient dog to a donor dog through testing. So it will be harder to set up, but we will sort of link a dog, say it's got anxiety issues through high Prevotella, because that's the problem at the moment. We'll link it to a donor with no Prevotella, so you will get a result. There won't be any amplification of
Brilliant.
what's going on, or it won't be, oh, this doesn't work for these, because at the moment I think it's a bit of a silver bullet, they say, where people all get on board and go, oh, this is great, we've got to do this will resolve everything, but it won't if you don't do it right. So it's our ambition to do it really well.
I absolutely love that, and I know the next sort of 12 months or so is going to be quite an interesting time for certain over at Biome for Pets, that's for sure. So it'll be very interesting. We'll be keeping our eyes out to see what's what. So Keisha, I think you said there's a question on the Facebook.
Ooh.
Yeah, I have to apologise. My camera is not working tonight for some reason, so I'm really sorry my camera's not on.
Okay.
We've got Debbie Young. Does the gut bacteria change on a daily basis? So if you try and fix any imbalances by the diet, how long does it take to see any different results?
Yeah, good question. The microbiome does change on a daily basis, but the core remains the same. So it's the core we're after, which is why we use the database to determine the core. It's the diet will, for some dogs, it will be much quicker. The thing that makes it slower to change is how much or how high a percent of antibiotic resistant bacteria have you got in the gut. And that's nobody's fault. It's not because you're feeding antibiotics. It's coming in from the environment. If you've got a high percentage of that, the changes will be slower because you've got to get rid of them out of the microbiome. It depends how many species you've got. If you've got maybe 800 species, you may have 500 hanging on by their fingertips at 0.001%, but they're still there. So the diet will help to feed them. A good diet is important and a varied diet is important, but you do still have to kick out the antibiotic resistant bacteria. And that's what takes the time. Is that answered the question? Is that okay?
I think that's a really good answer as well. Thank you very much for the lady for putting that into the Facebook group. I love it when people get involved on there as well.
Yeah.
So we have Lindsay Moore who sent a sample in as well.
Oh, brilliant! We have more and more coming through on the group who have been sending samples in. So the next couple of weeks are going to be very exciting.
Yeah. Brilliant.
So the last question I have is, what final piece of advice would you give to dog owners who are considering the microbiome test for their pets but aren't quite certain about it yet?
Gosh, just do it. I'm so into it, aren't I? That's the thing. I just think it helps you to manage the dog's health long term, not just like a quick fix, not like buying a supplement or saying, oh, this is the latest thing, this is bound to work. With the information that you're given, it lasts a long time, so it's worth it. It's like an investment. And the knowledge that you get and the ability to manage the diet, manage quite serious diseases sometimes is phenomenal to me. So I think in this day and age, with all the pressures on the microbes and the war that we've had on the microbes for 100 years, it's definitely an investment for sure.
Brilliant.
Yeah, do it. Go for it.
Completely agree. I really do. I know it's been a bit of a whistle stop, so we will be saving this live up onto our Facebook group so that members can refer back to it, or if we get posts in future from new members, we can refer them to watch the live as well. And we store all our lives in our featured posts, so people can refer back at any point in time. Nick, have you got any questions at all?
No, but there's one final question coming from Lindsay on the live. She said, my little dog is a COVID dog. Could this be part of the reason he's reactive and suffers from acid reflux?
Yeah. because the bacteria make acid that are involved in that COVID profile. Yeah. It's quite incredible, really, isn't it?
So we're literally looking, aren't we, then, at any dog with sort of behavioural issues or any dog with anything potentially not being 100% well. So any itching, any loose stools or random stools that are back and forth, and they can never get 100% right all the time. Any dog with the ear issues, any dog with the anxiety especially. Lindsay, don't worry, my Arnie was the exact same, and also a lockdown dog, so I know exactly how you feel, but we're there to support you as well. And Dr. Carroll will be once you get your results through as well.
Yeah.
Well, that was one of the things that really got me into it, was seeing Arnie's results and seeing what they said and looking at Arnie. It was like, wow, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It was as if the results were Arnie. They really were. And I know that Amy has also had one of her boys tested as well, and is hoping to test her other 2 boys this year, because she's again found it so insightful. I think that was for Humphrey, and I'm really sorry, Amy, if I got that one wrong, but I'm pretty certain it was Humphrey. Although it could have been either of them, any of the 3 now. So yeah, we are seeing more and more people doing it, and it is a long journey, but you will get there eventually, everyone, so hang in tight.
Yeah, it is. But then when you look at an ecosystem and the damage that you can do by doing the wrong thing, you can destroy it, can't you? And that's what the gut is. It's an ecosystem that's just being pressured all the time. So you can't actually, unless you know what's in there and what that ecosystem looks like, you can't look after it very well. I think it's great for that.
Yeah, definitely. It really is. And it's the only way of knowing exactly what's going on inside. So
yeah,
long run, it saves a lot of money. It really does. It stops you wasting buying lots of different products in hopes of fixing things.
Sure.
Is there anything else, Nick, that you can see on the Facebook?
Yes, there's one that's just come in now from Debbie. My dog's results came back as 81%. I don't know how you pronounce this.
Bacteroidetes.
Yes, it could be that one. Extremely high Prevotella. But I've always fed a raw diet.
Raw.
He was weaned on raw from his mum, so I find these results interesting. And then she just put another one in saying, can overfeeding vegetables cause these high results?
No. I think you're just unlucky. And I really feel for people, because it's not their fault and it's not the diet's fault. It's the environment. It's a little bit like if you're pouring weed killer in, and you want to have diversity. I can only go on nature again as a comparison, but we've got rid of so many plants by putting weed killer down, and they're good, beneficial plants. They're there to support diversity and they're there to support health. Once they've gone, they're very hard to get back. And even if you fertilize it exactly as you should and do everything exactly as you should, and you do it right, they won't come back. And I'm afraid we're at that point with the dog. And if the dog has inherited that from the mom, you're kind of, you've got a good fight on your hands to get them back. And again, that's why we want to do the fecal matter transplant as well, because there are bacteria in the guts of dogs that are fed raw that kill off those bacteria, Prevotella and Bacteroidetes. So there is hope, but we've just got to get our act together and, be able to use it properly and appropriately, that it will help more people.
Definitely. I think it's going to be a very, very interesting year on the fecal matter transplants. It's definitely something I know Amy and myself are very keen about, so it'll be interesting.
Well, I think we've got 10 tests, I think, to send out of dogs that actually went through the COVID lockdowns that are very calm, and fed raw and haven't had antibiotics. So we're kind of hoping they'll make really good donors. We'll have to let you know. And then as soon as we find those dogs, it's just going to be quicker to rebalance the microbiome, because you've got to put back in what's gone. The diet won't bring it back. That's the I suppose the sad thing for me is I really love it when people do a good diet, and they are better because those bacteria are still hanging on. So there may be 500 species there just sort of going, oh, I'm hanging on, until you get rid of the ones that have taken over, that shouldn't be there, that are predominant and resistant.
Yeah.
So you have to do it, because if you didn't do it, you wouldn't have any bacteria left.
You wouldn't even have those ones hanging on, would you?
No,
if you didn't do it at all. So you're doing the best thing, Debbie, that you can do by keeping on with that diet. But hopefully you'll get your help sorted in the next few weeks and be able to get on the right track with things. But that, I think, is all of them. Can you see any more, Nick?
Yes, there's another one from Debbie saying, sorry, another question. Does the FMT last for life?
Good question. I think with the work we've done, and we have I've only got one donor dog that I've ever found that I can really trust at the moment. But it has to be a fantastically resilient microbiome, and we've used it on, I think, maybe 20 dogs. And the bacteria from the donor dog has set up home in all of the dogs that have had the FMT for about, I think they've had it 2 months. So it takes 2 months to actually repopulate. But these are very poor dogs. They've got very unusual illnesses. They wouldn't be the run-of-the-mill dog. They've got lots of health issues, let's say. So 30% of them set up home, which I think is a fantastic result.
Wow.
But we just need more donor dogs. We've only got one.
Oh, well, hopefully you will get that population of donor dogs very soon. Fingers crossed for this group that are going through the testing. Yeah,
I did have one actually, and he may be in the group, and I won't say his name, but I think he was quite surprised because it was his first dog. And I think he was quite surprised when I said, would you like to be a donor dog?
Aww.
And he said yes,
brilliant.
which was great because he came right at the right moment. So we've got 2 now.
That is fantastic. Fingers crossed there'll be many more to come along soon for you as well.
Thank you.
And we'll get more and more dogs helped as the more the science advances, the more we learn. Well, fingers crossed, get more and more dogs back healthy. So I know I'm very conscious of the time, and you've been so kind giving us your time for free today. Really do appreciate it.
No, it's great.
If there is anything that people are wondering about, are they best to go to your Facebook group?
I guess they are.
For people.
Yeah, if they wouldn't mind, because I deal with that. It's easier than emails, I think, quite often. Yes, if they wouldn't mind, that'd be brilliant. Thank you.
Brilliant. What I'll do, I'll get the Facebook group and I'll pop it into the comments below this post, so that people can refer back to that.
Brilliant.
Thank you so much. It's
you're so welcome.
This has been a bit of a dream for me.
Well,
absolutely love it.
We've got more to go, haven't we? We've got a lot more to do.
Yeah, and you are at the Natural Dog Expo this year as well, aren't you? So I'm sure a few of our members will be going, and fingers crossed we will as well.
Great. See you there.
Thank you so much for your time. And Nick,
welcome.
do you want to do the magic on your side?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you everybody for watching.
Thank you.